Jeremiah. Let's get right back into Paul here. Now, remember, we're on number two here, which is an intellectual response, is what we're pushing here. We're pushing for, a response to you having all of this authorized capacity and the experiences, which is number one, which is experience. You're experiencing beauty. You have the capacity, which is the introduction. Number one is you have engaged that capacity. You have used it. You've enjoyed it. And number two is, what's the response to these first two? It should be an intellectual response. Paul is saying some people do not have an intellectual response. And he's saying that they knew God. And that's verse 23 there. You know God because you see his handiwork. When I look at a Shishkin painting, I really like Shishkin a lot. He's a wonderful painter. He has personality. A lot of 19th century master painters, they like adding a little bit of their own personal twist to their paintings, and that's what makes them nice. Your own colors, your own, your own brush stroke, your own whatever, your own canvas. That's what makes art wonderful. Is different people make different contributions. There is no one or two great artists. You just appreciate all of them and what they have to offer, and it makes it interesting. And and when I see a Shishkin or a Norman painting or Percy, I look at their artists, their famous artists. I see their artwork, um, and I say, wow, I wonder what they're thinking. I wonder how they created it. And that is a thinking person who created the artwork. They have a mind. They have a being. They have a will, and they decided to create beautiful things. And we're happy about that because an artist doesn't have to paint art or to do art or work on a work of art is what I'm trying to say. They could be out running the streets, chopping down trees, and they selected well. And that's one reason why we appreciate a lot of artists, especially Christian artists. Uh, uh, and most of the guys who I follow, I'm pretty sure most of them are Christians because they have Christian stuff in there. But they always paint nature, and it's just wonderful. It's wonderful to see people who are enjoying God's creation like a person who's a painter. I think it's wonderful. And when I look at paintings, excuse me, I look at what are they thinking kind of. That's a very interesting person. They're sharing their personality. They're sharing that they're caring people. A lot of their paintings are people who with mothers holding their children and so forth, and they're laughing and so forth. So we know the character of the artist. That's my point. You're not just looking at art. You're looking at a person, and that's what Paul is saying here. And there's a lot of scriptures here we could reference, but I'm going to move on. You're without excuse for in verse 18 because God revealed that he revealed that if you're in order, you're going to stay alive. That's one of the main points here. And when you get out of order, God's not going to be happy. He's going to discard you. When God made everything, everything works in a circle. It's called the web of life and so forth. Where things circle and there's condensation and evaporation and all of these things are happening. And when things don't work, and the thing that blocks everything from working, it's removed. That's the point. And that's the wrath of God that we talk about periodically here, which is he's not happy with people who are bungling up the machine. People who go out of their way to cause harm and so forth. And when he wants harmony, there's a price tag to pay for all of that. And it could cost you going downstairs because maybe the Lord just got tired of it, and he's the one who decides when and where he's had enough. Now, obviously, for me, he's been very tolerant for me personally, making mistakes. But my point is that he's in charge of all of that. I can't walk up to somebody and say, "Yeah, man, you got 10 years of partying or something." You can't do that. I had a young man ask me one day when I had I had an office in Newport Beach, wonderful job place, a wonderful place to work to say the least. I had a view of the beach there. Oh, it was just an amazing job. And I had an office there, but I shared the office, but I was the head guy there most of the time. And a young man came in there one day and he said, I want to get out there and go wild or whatever. I told him, I said, God is in charge of how far and when people go and what happens to them, essentially. And as far as you, a wise person, because you're asking me because you know that I have some wisdom, and I'm not bragging, I have wisdom. I do have some wisdom, and you hope to gain from that, and temper and balance your wild oats. Temperance Hill. And my point is that I'm here to tell you. I told him. I said, I cannot define or I cannot predict for you what bad things happen to people, but I can tell you that being what a lot of Americans or people call a boring person is the best way to go. Finding joy in very mundane things, and so forth. That's the way to go. Because a lot of people in my community, because I came from a rough community for part of my life, I told the gentleman that a lot of people didn't make it where I'm sitting right now. We had parties and we had wild times, and a lot of people didn't make it, or they're handicapped or something. Point is that the safest way to go is always the best way to go. Let's put it that way. And since you've heard from some of the people here that work here that you should enjoy your wild youth and so forth, this is unwise counseling. Intelligent people will counsel you and tell you to go the safe way every time. It may be boring to you at times, too bad. If some people get away with drunk driving or something, that doesn't mean you should drunk drive. Which is what a lot of Americans have in these movies I have. I have some movies where the movies are for children. And there's some adults in there bragging about living through drug times and so forth. And this is the enemy. It's not Protestant movies. Those aren't Protestant movies. And they even tell children that they went through hippie days and drugs, and they're laughing about it, and so forth. Unfortunately, it's a part of the American fabric, and it's in a lot of movies and music. It's not in the Quaker music here and so forth. That's not my point. That's the Amish people around here and the Quakers around here. They don't put up with none of that nonsense for 5 minutes. These movies, where the comedian comes in there and goes, ha 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 ha, I was wild, and you children, we had a great time, and I'm not that way anymore, and all this kind of stuff. That loosey-goosey Babylonian conversation, especially with children, it's very, very uncomfortable. America in the 1960s, they started introducing stimuli to children that they never had before in the history of the United States, pretty much. And you've seen the results of that now in America. But let's move on. Let's get into number 2, which is an intellectual response. I'm going to let Paul go. He has about 8 or 9 sentences here, maybe more, where he really gets into this second concept of you are responsible for seeing everything. And you could also see, of course, that that if you get in line, it's going to be good for you, just like nature. If you get out of line, you might find yourself chucked down the street because you're in the way of everything going and flowing smoothly. You know, like I said, the life web of, the web of life, trees and hymen, phosphates, nitrates, sulfates, whatever, going down to the water, then the water gets in the ocean, and then the plankton receives light, gives you oxygen, and it evaporates in the clouds, and the clouds rain on the tree, and then there's photosynthesis, and photosynthesis requires chlorophyll, and chlorophyll requires this and gives you oxygen, and you give life back to the plant, it gave life to you, and God has everything in order. And when things get out of order, he's obviously not a happy camper. That's the bottom line. Let's move on to number 3. Let me finish number 2. So creations should be wise and enter into their full capacity to enjoy what God has for them, so that you can keep that capacity. I wanted to mention that too. That this is getting a little heavy, but you guys can, if you follow along, you should get this. I'm getting back into beauty some more. We're really hammering home beauty now because we're getting ready to phase out of beauty, okay? So you want to enter in the full capacity of what you can enjoy. That's the point. And that comes from getting in line, seeing that creation must get in line, that you're not the creator, and you're going to stand at attention, and you're going to say, yes, sir, and that's going to be good for you. That's the point. And to enter into some sort of rebellion is wrath for you, because you're not in order. And when you look at nature, you should see, wow, everything is in order. Okay, as they say in America, duh, you should see that everything's in order. So you get in order. Let's move, let's continue one more point. So I should see a caring, intelligent artist and a very powerful figure behind everything I see. Like I said, when I see Shishkin, I've been looking at a very nice painting by Shishkin. I think he's Russian, and he's a wonderful painter. And I looked at his paintings and I said, I wonder how much he studied. I wonder a little bit. I don't think about it that much, but I do think about, Mondstadt and Percy. Where did he learn? How to paint and things like that. And that's the same thing we're doing right here. Let's go to number 3, Seth. Seth is appointed time, significant element of time to own life and beauty. It's appointed to you by the power of God, which is exousia in the Greek. It's authorized by a sovereign God who is the only maker, and he is also a judge and in total control. He is sovereign. He is providence. Sovereign means he makes decisions and he's in charge. Providence means he provides opportunities, and those opportunities are to be appreciated and not abused. I think that's what that word, I haven't looked at that in the dictionary in a while, but let's move on. So authorized, sovereign, appointed time for you. Very significant. Number 4 is inner and outer beauty. Now, we focused on outer beauty on number 1 here pretty much. And that's your senses, cognition, enjoy, engage. However, general beauty of you having the ability to engage, enjoy, appreciate sound, smell, and all of this, breathing and all of this, it has a lot to do with inner beauty. But I decided to make the point of number 4, which goes to Isaiah, and I think we're going to skip Isaiah for now. We have to go there because that's a really good place to talk about inner and outer beauty, where the Bible talks about character, and it talks about how character is developed and how that is beautiful. how people being nice is beautiful. It's beautiful to watch people be caring. And that's what we're going to talk about a lot more. We've left that category out because that's one of the last categories I want to talk about in Isaiah, okay? Obviously, we mentioned a number one category, which is agape, and that agape is so beautiful. It's so beautiful to watch the Lord on the cross rise from the cross. That's the beauty. And it's beautiful to see someone who is willing to love people who aren't very loving people. That's one of the main points of the cross. I'm not a very nice person sometimes. That's the way people are. And for Jesus Christ, who's pure, to suffer horribly for me, it gets my attention. That's the point. And it's beautiful to see the Lord in Matthew chapter 5. But let's let Isaiah go. Let's let inner and outer beauty go for that for now. Let's focus on inner beauty. Let's go to one of the scriptures we go to over and over again. Let's go to let's look at Luke 6 for a moment. Let's go to Luke 6:45. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart. Stop right there. The treasure is, the beauty is your heart. The ability for you to become a born-again Christian and become a person devoted to being caring, that's what's beautiful. That's what the treasure is. The treasure is that you're a caring person and that you've devoted yourself to the truth and honesty. That's what the treasure is. That you've devoted yourself to being humble and to endure difficulties for the benefit of others. That's the essence of Christianity. And the Master is telling you that here. And he's saying that the good man has a good heart because he practices love. That's why. And when you give something, somebody's going to give you something back. And people who are giving people, they have fruits that the Master is referring to here. They have activities that are the activities of love from the power of the force of the Father's presence, his electricity, his actual flow from his heart. It goes to your heart, and it's powerful. And it empowers your heart. It empowers your thinking. It energizes your heart. When you allow it to energize your heart. And then when you meet people, you give to them pressed down, shaken together emotion. You're not giving them flippant emotion. This is very significant when we're getting into inner beauty here. Because what the Master is saying here is that Christian people, they expect nothing again. That's verse 35. I don't expect things from people. We had a ministry where we helped a couple of ladies here some time ago, and we helped the ladies, and we didn't get anything in return. We didn't ask for anything in return. We didn't expect anything. That's what the Master says. Then when he gets down to the end of the chapter, he says, what you're going to get is you gave in your activity, which is the fruits of Father's power, ghost, and wisdom and knowledge. You went out and you loved people, and you didn't expect nothing again. But what you did get was pressed down, shaken together, agape love. That's what you got. Because that's the only thing there is in heaven. Adam and Eve didn't have mammon or money or material. They had a garden. That's all they had. So when somebody thanked you for something, money and mammon had nothing to do with it. So the Master is catapulting you into heaven, and taking you back to the Garden of Eden where there was no money, and when people encountered each other, the only thing that I could give you in return was my appreciation and my love felt thanks. That's all we had. That's it. There's nothing else. And the Master is taking you there in chapter 6. I saw a guy on TV. He said chapter 6 was related to money. No, it can't be related to money because verse 20 in this chapter says, "Blessed are you poor." How can the Master tell you that you're very happy being poor and then tell you that you're going to be very happy getting a lot of money? That's simple grammar for maybe a fourth grader. Now, because there are a lot of people on television or elsewhere who don't understand simple grammar in this chapter, we're not attacking them, and we hope they get it together. That's our point here. We're not attacking anyone. We're just stating facts. That's the way it is. Okay? I'll be right back with segment 3 here. Where are we? No, we got a little more time. No, so the Master is pointing out that analyzing hearts and enjoying heart-to-heart communication. America had a TV show called Heart to Heart. A long time ago in America here, we had a TV show called Heart to Heart. I didn't watch it that much. I didn't think it was that good. I didn't think it was that good, personally, for me. It didn't seem like it was heart to heart to me. Maybe if I see it again, I'll understand it better. But the Master is talking about heart-to-heart communication here. Because Father looks at hearts, and humans try to put God in there. You know, if we just looked at Psalm 50, where Father God speaks through the psalmist, he says, "You thought I was like you." That's the point. Father's talking there clearly there in Psalm 50. He's saying, "You thought I was just like you," and I'm going to tell you that that's wrong. A lot of people think that God thinks in terms of people get what they earn in terms of Christianity, for example. You don't get what you earn from God when you get something good, because you would never get anything good. I'll say it again. You don't get what you deserve from God, because if you got what you deserved, you'd never get anything good ever. That's the point. It doesn't mean that being very nice and being very giving may not help your cause out. That's not the point. That's not the point at all. Point is that you can never go to Father's throne and go, "God, Father, you owe me this." The Latter-day Saints, or the demonic witnesses, or Catholicism, where you earn and you buy candles and you can get a husband. All this stuff is what we call wrong answer. It's not Protestantism. That's why Protestants are under attack more than anybody in the world since the world began. Starting with Cain and Abel, all the way through to Herod, Antiochus, Nero, doesn't matter. This pope, that pope, this, everybody. The powers that be have attacked Protestants, and God lets them attack. They go downstairs and you go upstairs. They go downstairs for attacking you, being Babylon, and you go upstairs for allowing them to attack you and not resisting them and being a lover of people and loving the truth. That's how this all works out. To put it in a simple format here. Inner and outer beauty. We can see that the one you love is a very, very intelligent, very, very love prioritizing person. That's the point. He keeps emphasizing heart-to-heart communication. Render to God the things that are God. Give Caesar the money because his picture's on the money. Do you see my picture on the money? No. I deal with money because we're dealing with money right now. But in the Garden of Eden, we had no money, and in heaven, we have no money. So I'm in heaven, and I think like heaven. That's what the master is pushing on us. It doesn't matter how many buffoons are out there who try to mix Babylon in with the Bible. It's not going to work for us Quakers there. We don't buy it. We never need to look. I had somebody who was a TV minion here talking to here the other day. I can tell they're a TV minion because they said that God owes them something. That's not true Christianity. That person is part of the falling away because they've fallen away from intellect. They're not fourth grade intellect in chapter 6 or anywhere else in the Bible for that matter. They don't understand that you can't bring anything. Your righteous deeds are filthy rags. Doesn't mean God doesn't love you. God knows reality. Let's put it that way. And because millions of people are mixed up, it has nothing to do with you and I being Quakers over here, understanding sure Protestantism. They just had an expose here about how America was always two people. Maryland, which was devoted to Jesuit, wicked Catholicism, and we had Quakers living right down the freeway. And the people lived side by side. People in Maryland who were violent Jesuit people and who took the Jesuit oath. And I already went through the Jesuit oath, but it's not for this channel. They took the Jesuit oath. They're violent. They're into power, and they're liars, whatever. They don't tell the truth. And then right down the freeway are a bunch of Amish people who study the Bible. They're Protestants. They're loving and caring, and they both grow together. The weeds grow together right next to the good plants. And then at the end of the age, the Lord's going to chop down, and He's going to gather the good, and He's going to discard the weeds. That's how this works out. You're either a Jesuit in Babylon with a harlot, or you are a Protestant. There really is no middle ground. Okay? Now that's a long way short to get around inner and outer beauty. Let's go to 5. 5 is everything is going to be beautiful. Everything. Soon, as the Garden of Eden and Shemaiah, which is how you say heaven, Shemaiah. That's Hebrew, and the third heaven, and total beautification. Every spot's going to be clean in heaven. Everything. Color, no stenches, no smells. There's nothing ugly in heaven. It's absolutely beautiful everywhere. Everything ugly is out of sight. You won't see it. Inner beauty is going to be there. Outer beauty, everything is going to be beautiful. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 11. 6 is born again man. You get a new covering legally. You're covered legally with white because Jesus Christ was able to give you a robe of light based upon His successful purchase of your errors. His wrath for you is gone, and He's going to put His worth on top of you. And He can do that. He has a whole lot of worth. That's the point. And all error is gone. You're covered, and there's a new you in glory. And that's the new you, number 6, in beauty. You're going to be similar to the pure Jesus, angelic. Now, you will not be pure as Jesus. You won't know that. No. Forget that. But you will be seen as pure with a covering. Okay? 7 is New Jerusalem. That's new heaven. That's a new city. God and man have a new legal marriage, so to speak, a new legal union, legally. And you're going to tabernacle and hang out with Mr. Holy. You've been cleansed by the blood of Jesus, and the suffering has removed and got you out of jail, and you can just sit there next to Father and chill next to Big Daddy, who's probably about 24,000 miles right on top of your head. He never moves, and you never move. I don't care what you saw on television. I'm giving you Bible right here. Now, I'm going to stop here. We're going to move on. We're going to go to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Okay? And I'm going to give you a quick look at those because we're going to move on. I'll be right back. Maranatha.